I'd like to call to order the work session of March the 16th. I want everybody to raise their hands and put their elbows together. We're saying hello to everybody, okay? And remind you to go through this. Heard earlier today that the stock market is getting ready to take another hit. We need to be mindful and courteous and respectful of each other, and just be aware. You know, we will get through this. It's serious, but if we work together like we have done on so many other projects, this too will pass. Our first order of business is to ask our 20-year employee, Dean Murray from Public Utilities, to please come forward. Dean.
Dean Murray began his career with the City of Clearwater on March 27, 2000, as a custodial worker in our General Services Department. He then promoted to become a Public Utilities Technician on June 16, 2001. He then became a Water Distribution Operator in May of 2011 and has been serving the City of Clearwater for 20 years and has spent the majority of his years with the Public Utilities Department. As a water quality technician, Dean collects and analyzes water samples from all over the city to ensure the safety and quality of our source and drinking water. Dean has outstanding customer service skills and uses them frequently to help residents resolve complex water quality issues. In 2019, Dean represented the city as the United Way Loan Executive, to which he did a tremendous job, and we're proud of the work he continues to do. Away from work, Dean is the proud father of 5 boys, ranging in age from 15 to 21. Dean also coaches youth football. Please help us in acknowledging his 20 years of service to the city and its residents. Thank you, Dean, for the work you do each and every day. It is appreciated.
That's for you, Rand.
Thank you, sir.
There we go. Oh, wait. Dean, come back.
There we go.
Come back. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
And for 30 years with the City of Clearwater, William Buzzell from our Solid Waste Department.
Mr. William Bill Buzzell began his career with the City of Clearwater on March 26, 1990, after serving in the United States Air Force. That's pretty good. When Bill joined the city as a sanitation worker, sanitation was a division of the Public Works Department, not the standalone department that it is today. During his career, Bill has been certified to drive every piece of solid waste equipment, and he has held pivotal roles in all aspects of solid waste management, including sanitation worker, scale keeper, transfer station operator, solid waste equipment operator, Supervisor 1, Supervisor 2, and culminating as Manager Solid Waste Programs. Bill always took pride in his professional development. He devoted countless hours to a variety of training courses to enhance his skills and broaden his contributions to the citizens he served. Bill's success is evident in the fact that he served for years as a trainer for the department. Through coursework and work experience, Bill also earned the designation of Certified Municipal Solid Waste Manager, as recognized by the solid waste industry of North America. In addition, Bill also earned the SWANA designation of Manager of Transfer Station Operations. He played a vital role in the successful operation of the city's solid waste transfer station. As a Manager of Transfer Station Operations, Bill was the city's point person with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, a required condition of transfer station permitting. During his tenure with the city, Bill received countless commendations from customers, supervisors, and coworkers. Most notably, Bill was part of 2 teams that received the citywide bi-monthly team award, one in 2007 and the other in 2011. He currently serves on the Diversity Leadership Council and is the department's diversity coordinator. The city has also benefited from Bill's creativity. He was instrumental in adopting a 4-day, 10-hour work week for part of the solid waste operation, which saved money by reducing overtime without negatively impacting service. Bill has a well-earned reputation as a hard worker and for going the extra mile to assist others in any way that he could. His extensive job knowledge, teamwork, and commitment will be missed. The City of Clearwater congratulates Bill Boesel on his 30 years of dedicated, impactful, and selfless service to the Solid Waste Department, the City of Clearwater, and its citizens. Bill Boesel.
Congratulations, Randy.
Bill, good job. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Extra exercise this morning.
And our employee of the month for February 2020 is Tanya Vasquez from our Planning and Development Department.
Tanya Vasquez might be a senior development review technician, but this title does not accurately describe her actual contributions to the Development Services Center. Tanya comes to work every day with the goal to make today better than the last. She is extremely hardworking and always tries to improve business practices wherever she feels it could be improved in efforts to make the department run more efficiently while emphasizing customer orientation. Many times, Tanya will completely pause what she's doing to help a coworker in need, whether it be helping on a project, tracking down paperwork, debunking mysteries, offering to teach someone how to navigate our new Acela software, or even troubleshooting issues on someone's computer that can be completely unrelated to her job. Tanya never complains when going out of her way for others. Tanya deserves this award for many reasons, but most importantly because she is an exceptional colleague and an asset to any company. She is someone many people rely on and truly value. Her work ethic is impeccable and she carries herself to such a standard that it makes others want to do the same. Tanya takes great pride in her projects, such as ePermit Hub, a project that's been in the works for the past year, and watching it develop into something amazing that will improve the permitting experience of our customers have with the Planning and Development Department in many ways. Not only has Tanya volunteered to proctor over 10 ePermit Hub training classes, she has also composed multiple FAQs and incredibly informative documents to make this software migration process as seamless and as stress-free for our clients as possible. Finally, Tanya always strives to exceed expectations in service and support. Tanya has an excellent rapport with the many constituents served by our office and is always referred to as a very kind and extremely helpful by our clients. Because of people like Tanya, we are frequently given thanks for making the City of Clearwater one of the finest permitting offices in the state. Tanya Vasquez.
Well done. Congratulations.
Tanya, good job. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well deserved.
We take this moment because I think council will agree that one of the things that we enjoy about work sessions and our meetings is being able to recognize our employees. And on behalf of all of us, Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Albert, and Mr. Poglaze, Mr. Cundiff, let me thank our employees for the work that y'all do for our citizens. I know not too many people are watching our work session, but you know, the City of Clearwater is more than just the council. It's more than the city manager or the city attorney. It's all of you people on our staff that works every day behind the scenes. And on behalf of all of us, thank you very much for your service. We appreciate it. I'd like to recess the work session and call to order the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting for March the 16th. Are there any addition or corrections to the minutes of February the 18th?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of February the 18th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda of the CRA? If so, please come forward at this time. If not, we will close public comment and move on to agenda item 4.1. Ms. Thompson.
Yes, amend the Clearwater Community Redevelopment Agency's rules and regulations. So we have some proposed updates here to provide more clarity and to become consistent with state law and county reporting requirements. And Assistant City Attorney Michael Fuino is going to walk through the changes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, trustees. Michael Fuino, Assistant City Attorney and also CRA Attorney. The proposed amendments to the rules that we have here are about 11 in nature. They're both substantive to comport with some changes in the law and also to kind of codify some of the procedures that we have done. And the other ones are just kind of editorial in nature to kind of clean up some language. So an amendment to an existing rule that's substantive in nature really will start with Rule 2, which is the executive director. And what that does is codify the chain of command that the executive director reports to the city manager or his designee, and as well as the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the executive director. And those powers, duties, and responsibilities come directly from the approved job description for this position. The new rules start on Rule 18, and they go from 18 to 28. And I would say that Rules 18 through 25 are rules that comport with Part 3 of Chapter 163, which is the Florida Community Redevelopment Act, especially the changes in them. So just to go through them briefly. Rule 18 requires the trustees to have 4 hours of ethics training. That's the new part of the statute. That ethics training at a minimum has to have training on public meetings and public records law and things of that nature. Because the trustees are normally the council members, you pretty much already receive that training in most, so you won't be too much training in that. But to the extent that there is, we'll make sure that you have that training. Rule 19 is simply just a requirement that the CRA boundaries be published on the website, which they are. If we extend or shorten the boundaries, then that change has to go up in 60 days. Rule 20, 21, and 22 are new reporting requirements that are imposed by statutory changes from last year. There's an annual report from Rule 20, which requires a financial audit as well as certain performance data, which was calculated and then submitted. Rule 21 is actually that audit report that I just talked about, which includes generally withdrawals and deposits to and from the trust account, as well as certain financial statements, balance sheets, income statements, and things of that nature. Rule 22 deals with the budget. The budget has to be posted, or the proposed budget, I should say, needs to be posted 2 days before it's adopted. It must remain on the website for 45 days thereafter. After the final budget is adopted, it needs to be posted on the website within 30 days and for at least 2 years after it's adopted. You can make changes to the budget, but there's a budget amendment process that has to be followed, and that's as well as codified. Rule 23 deals with expenditures that the agency can do. The expenditures need to be in conformance with the budget, and they can only be for the 9 enumerated things that are allowed in the statute. This includes things like administrative overhead, buying land, affordable housing, and there's a kind of catch-all for number 9, which is things that are all necessary to perform the agency's functions. Now, Rule 24 deals with the disposition of real property. That could be through sale, lease, or otherwise. That's another statutory process that says that before the trustees or the agency can dispose any agency-owned property, there needs to be a request for proposal out. We have to invite proposals in for the developers, and you need to evaluate all those. We kind of set a framework for how to do that by really using the city's purchasing committee that comes together and that looks at each proposals and decides which is the best, and then we'll make a recommendation to you all on how to dispose the property. Rule 25 deals with purchasing. It's simply the same as the city, and the reason that that rule is because that's another statutory requirement. So the city will be the purchasing agent, and the agency is required to follow all purchasing policies of the city. And then 26, 27, and 28 are substantive rule changes, but nothing big. They just deal with amendments to the rules, execution of documents and executions of resolutions, and who signs what, and how they get filed. The remaining changes are simply editorial in nature. As I said, they delete unwanted phrases, and the only other thing I would say was that we added a title to each of the rule numbers, so it explains what the substance of the rule is. That's pretty much the amendments that we're asking to make. If there's any questions, I'm happy to
Any
answer.
questions of staff on agenda item 4.1? Question regarding the March 31st deadline that's in at least Rule 20 for the annual reporting. It says that, the annual report would have to be filed no later than March 31st of each year. If we pass this today, we've only got 2 weeks to meet that deadline.
Well, the annual report's already a statutory requirement, so they should be already working on that.
Okay.
And
So
Yeah.
that's not going to, we're not going to violate our own rule then?
No.
Okay.
And there's 2 different components to that have been added. One, the CRA does the audit at the same time as the city, and many communities are like that in Florida. So on the 31st, we submit the annual report, which has already been completed. Then we will add last year's audit, which is what we have today. And then we also, the county adopted a new reporting framework that they've given an extension of some different performance measures for how they're categorizing different expenditures by housing, transportation. So we have some additional documents that we do have to provide this year, but we had a heads up October of last year that they were coming, so we're in good shape.
Okay. I just want to make sure we weren't going to be violating any of our new rules, and if we waited until April to pass this, we would be okay.
We're
All right.
okay.
Any other questions, council? Motion?
thank you very much.
Motion to approve agenda item 4.1.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.1. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4.2.
Yes, authorize the CRA director to develop a grant agreement in the amount of $500,000 to incentivize the construction of new rental housing as part of a mixed-use development at 708 Chestnut Street. And so this item today is really a 2-part item. So step 1, if you approve, would be to authorize me to negotiate a grant agreement, and step 2 would be to bring that grant agreement back with specifics for your approval for this project. So now I'd like to invite up Ray Casano and Shahab Imrani to explain more about the request, and then I'll follow up after that to answer any questions and with a few more comments.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
So,
Let me ask that y'all identify yourselves first.
I'm Raymond Casano, and I live at Station Square, downtown Clearwater.
Shahab Emrani, and I live at the water's edge, downtown Clearwater. I think we could basically restart.
Okay. I got a picture. And I wanted to, we brought our architect with us too, so if you have any questions, he'll be able to answer them. So I'm going to give you reasons why we think this project would be successful. I've lived downtown I've been in Clearwater for 38 years. I've been downtown forever. I'm experienced. I put Station Square condominiums there, 126 units with 2 storefronts. I live on top of Station Square in the flavor of total. I'm on the Downtown Development Board. Shahab is also on the Downtown Development Board. I sit there, he sits there. So we are very interested in downtown getting going. The building that we're talking about, which is this building right here at the bottom left, is sandwiched between 2 of the 4 busiest corners of downtown. So you've got Fort Harrison, Myrtle, Chestnut Court, and we're right in the middle of those. It's one of the least attractive buildings and one of the buildings that needs the most improvement. The homeless are using it to live. I get code people calling me from the city, get that stuff out of there, clean it up, pick up the trash on a constant basis. I know that costs some money for them to keep doing that. And there's a lot of other people making messes around the property because it's just been sitting there like that for many years. Most of the people coming from the beach, which is the one-way Chestnut from the beach, they're not from Clearwater, and they see this building, and I think it's a bad public relations for the city of Clearwater, especially for downtown. This improvement will move some of the benefits that we work with the Downtown Development Board from Cleveland to the southern border of the downtown zone. So that's something we've talked about at the Downtown Development Board. Hey, let's get not all the money down on Cleveland, let's spread it around. So this will help that because I'm right on the southern border, this building. I think it'll be an igniter for more development in the area. Because that area is starting to move, but I think a nice $3 million project will not hurt. I think it will help. The incentive we're asking for will allow us to put a 3rd floor on there. And here's the, to the right. You can put a 3rd floor on the property or help us buy that out parcel, which you see my finger right there, which is for sale, and we can add more parking for the project. So that will occur if we get the incentive. This is what the building will look like if we get the incentive and get done. So it'll be one of the nicer buildings downtown. It'll take almost $3 million to make it look like that. And half the building will be brand new. And the Quonset hut part, that's the worst part, will be taken down for the parking lot. So it'll just disappear. The project will add 14 apartments, 4 stores, and 17 more parking spaces downtown. At full restoration, this will be one of the most aesthetic buildings downtown. The new building will reduce the toxicity levels, which are probably present in this very old building. Downtown near the water and new waterfront development has very few apartments for rent. You got the Nolan quite a ways away, but I mean, downtown there really isn't many apartments. I have 2 storefronts in my real estate company, and most of the people coming in, do you have an apartment for rent? Do you have an apartment for rent? And I don't. So I got a condo for sale. No, we want one for rent. So this will really help downtown in that area. I think it'll cause more people to shop downtown, visit stores. I told Amanda we put a little art gallery in there, and that I think it'll cause a little more body traffic. And visit the tenants that will be living in the 14 apartments. Currently, the building is unoccupiable, which causes the police department to spend more money supervising it. Some guy drove into the window. I mean, actually drove his car into the window. We had to board it up. Got a call from the police department. A bunch of teenagers got in one night and had a rave party. And of course, the police called me and they had to handle it. So I think it'll help the cost of supervising it with the code department and the police department, save some money if it's a better building and it's lit and it's functioning. The project will supply many jobs and services for the 18 months it's under construction. And of course, there'll be a large increase in real estate taxes. The 14 new tenants will aid the stores and restaurants downtown. So there's my points on why I think we should do this and why we need the incentive. I asked for 750,000, but Amanda cut it down to 500. Any questions so far? I did do a $45 million project, so I am experienced. And you're going to ask about our funding sources. We have purchased the land in cash. We owe no money on it. We've got a loan from Valley Bank of $750,000, which can be upgraded to $1 million. And we are capable of getting another loan if needed. So it's not one of those situations where the building will sit there waiting for funding. And if you guys remember right, at Station Square went up pretty fast. Probably faster than just about anything else downtown. That's what we want to do. We want to have start to finish, 12 to 18 months done. The quicker we get the okay on the money, the quicker we'll start. And if we don't get the incentive, we may just block the building out and give it to a one-person tenant. It would still get remodeled. It wouldn't benefit downtown as much. And I do have a tenant that will take the building if we just make a shell out of it. They'll finish it. Any questions?
Go ahead and finish.
I think I'm done.
I brought some samples, some of the works that I've done elsewhere. If interested, I could show you some pictures. Our motto in our company is improve people's lives, and even though we deal with taxes, we improve people's lives. And as a tax firm, it's amazing how many times we get love notes of how wonderful you guys help in my life. And that will prove that basically for our staff, that basically the environment they work in, which is spend most of the time in. It's a wonderful space. Is there anywhere I can put in a USB? If interested to see, otherwise it's okay.
Any questions? Mr. Hamilton?
There's in the paperwork here, it says, given in today's market, it's difficult to build housing without government assistance or government participating in the funding. My question is, when these apartments are built, are they going to be market rate or are they going to be subsidized? Are they going to be subsidized at a subsidized level? Since it's government going in, is there relief in the rent?
Well, they won't be very expensive because there'll be a constant parking situation. So it won't be subsidized rental, but it won't be high market either. Because they're not going to have assigned parking spaces, so they'll be fighting every night for a parking spot.
So I think that if, right now, since they're not a housing authority, they haven't set a target like 80% AMI or 120% AMI. Their rates that we've talked about so far would be slightly less than the Nolan. And that'll be contingent on what the final construction costs are, but by the nature that they're smaller and they have no amenities, they're going to be less expensive than the Nolan or Apex 1100. If you wanted to set a target at a certain AMI, I think workforce is between 80 and 120%. That's certainly something that we could bring forward in the negotiations. But as of today, since they're not a housing authority, they have not proposed a cap, and this is why we're having this conversation now to talk about what would be important to the trustees as part of the incentive.
And I'm trying to understand the property to the west. You do not own that at the present time.
I think no, that's an out parcel. The person that owns the entire block except for our building, I'm his agent, real estate agent.
Right.
And he leases 2 Walgreens. And we have a hard time getting that out parcel sold because, number one, Walgreens has to agree to it. So if it's any Coca-Cola or ice cream, no, because they sell that. So it almost has to be a bank. And there's not enough room on that out parcel for a drive-through. So it's pretty much dead space, which would be perfect for us for more parking.
Okay,
But-
well, what about, you're providing do you have any idea of what your four business, 'cause I'm looking at the parking of it, I mean, 17 spaces, 14 apartments, that leaves 3 parking spaces for 4 businesses. The math is, I'm having a hard time with the math on that.
This is why the incentive we're asking, because we need to get that other piece. The good news is, most of the people in the apartments will not need.
Excuse me 1 second. Please let me ask if you have a cell phone or other device that goes off to silence it?
Most of the people in the apartments will be gone during the day when the stores need it, and then when the stores close at 5 or 6, that's when the apartments will have a greater use. So it's going to be somewhat of a nice situation on the shared. I have a good relationship with Walgreens, and I think I'm going to be able, if you look at Walgreens, they have this little section by our building that is parking that doesn't get used very much. I'm going to try and offer them a shared situation. You can use mine during the day, and we can use theirs, and I think I can get that done, which will help the parking situation. But it'll be 17 new spaces downtown, which will help.
Any other questions? Well,
Yeah, ma'am, I do.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fogler.
Thank you, sir. I'm not quite understanding the funding, and the application seems to be the old application before you were requested to reduce the amount to 500,000. So I'm not understanding, the whole project is 3 million or 3.6 million?
We paid $750 for the land, and it's going to cost around $2.9 million to do that. So we're looking at $3.6 million total without that out parcel.
In my mind, I wouldn't count the money you spent to approve, to buy the property.
Right.
So the amount of project, as far as I'm concerned in looking at it, is 2.9. So if 2.9, you're requesting 500, where is, even at 2.9, where is the rest of the money coming from? I know you said you have $750,000 a loan from Valley
That could be raised to $1 million.
that could be raised to $1 million, so, and if we give you 5, that's 1.5, so you're still short several hundred, you're still short a lot of money. Where is that coming from?
Well, we have credit lines we can use.
It won't be a problem.
Shahab's company in Oregon is the #1 and the #3 best place to work in the entire state. I mean, he's done an amazing job, and when we go to the bank, they pretty much roll the carpet out for us.
I would have just, and I'm not doubting the success of either Station Square or Mr. What you have done. I just would have liked to have seen more detail in the numbers. It really works so that we understand it better. It seems, the application seems just a little incomplete.
Well,
to
and
me,
this is
perhaps.
part of why it's a two-step process, right? Because if the trustees aren't supportive of encumbering this amount of money and this concept and going forward, then we don't, we're not going to initiate getting into the details of the conversation, right, with getting permits, construction timeline, all the letters from the banks for the sources of funding, right? That's a lot of time and effort if there's not initial support for the idea.
Well, I think my support would have been much stronger had we had the benefit of more of the details. For instance, like Councilmember Hamilton said, what are going to be so this 500,000, has nothing to do with food and beverage, but yet if it's incentivizing the whole project, it would be nice to know what the plan is for the 4 retail spaces at the bottom. I mean, it didn't sound like I wasn't hearing any detail in that regard.
No, at this time, they don't have tenants for the 4 retail spaces. If they don't receive the incentive, they can create a shell space, and I believe you have a medical office.
Yes, United Health will
Interested?
take it as a shell. They've already 20-year lease. I don't know if it'll benefit downtown that much, but we would just shell it. It would cost quite a bit, but not anywhere near $3 million, and they would take it and fix out the interior.
Right.
The CRA's interest in the incentive is the housing. So frankly, for the bottom floor, whether it's office, retail, Any commercial use is fine. We're really interested in the housing unit, in the apartment housing units.
Do you have concern in regards to the parking, for instance, 14 units, 17 spots, 4 retail spaces?
Now, you guys know that I'm
Well,
the
I am-
person who lived without a car for 4 years, right? So I will say this, I think that this is a perfect setup for shared use, as Mr. Casano described. Most people living in these apartments are going to go to work during the day, and those spaces are going to be open. The uses that they're going to have, I don't think that we're going to see 4 retail uses. I think we'll see, given our current market, we might have 1 in there or maybe 1 gallery, so they're going to have some parking during the day, not really need parking at night. I think it's going to be possible to get in a shared agreement with Walgreens, and there's a lot of parking on that site. So the parking does not concern me. I also think with the size and what the price point will end up being, you might attract more people who only have 1 car or no car. It's extremely close to transit and to the trail. So that being said, I think that they do need to figure out some shared parking for sure, but I'm not concerned. And remember, our zoning ordinance for commercial uses does not require parking.
Right.
Any other questions, Council? Mr. Condo?
It may be in there, and it didn't see it. What size units are you anticipating?
The smallest one, I think, is going to be a couple studios at 6 to 650, and the largest one will be around 1,000, 2-bedroom, 1,000, 1,100. There's no gym, there's no pool, there's no clubhouse, so we are going to offer discounted rates. We're going to also offer discounted rent, someone that doesn't have a vehicle, like a bicycle or something, but that close to the beach, that close to the new bus station, which is right across the street, and 2 blocks from the other bus station. And a lot of the people that work downtown could live there, so we're businessmen, so we've got to reduce the rent to fill it, and it won't be, believe me, it won't be 5-star rent.
Bread and butter
Yeah.
apartments.
Yeah, waitress that works at the new restaurants, cooks. It's going to really help downtown, and aesthetically, you know, we need to get downtown ignited, and I think this is really going to help. It's not going to be a big money maker.
Any questions?
No questions, I got comments when you get there.
How long have you owned that property?
2 years?
About
Year and a half.
Because
year and a half,
it has been vacant for such a long time.
Well, we donated to the Haiti project. For the Haiti, they had the earthquake and everything. So they're in it and we don't charge them rent. And they kind of watch it for us, and they're staying there longer now because of the problems we've had.
I think my problem is that I heard repeatedly say, we can get the money, we have great credit from the banks. So if you've got that kind of credit and, you know, support from the banks that you can get the money, why are you coming to the city?
Because the project doesn't make sense economically without the incentive. We'd have to reduce the look and the size of the place, and you wouldn't like it as well.
Don't like what's there.
Oh, I
And
know.
and it's been there for
Pretty-
years.
Well, we want to change that. We want
you
to
know,
change that.
It'll be better.
You mentioned the retail space and that you developed Station Square, but the retail space at Station Square is largely empty, and it's been that way for years too, right?
Sir, the one that that we own in Station Square, the west side, is completely full. That's a $2 million project that has 22 suites, and there's only 2 vacancies.
And we use that as storage.
And how much money, what kind of incentive did you get for the city for that?
Well, we didn't need to because the guy that put a lot of the money in it went broke, and we came in, it was kind of favorable for us to take over. So, but we put a lot of money and time in it, and it's really nice. If you want to see it, you would be very impressed. It's almost the quality of the Ring at 1/3 the cost, and it's on the ground floor. And we've got a lot of diversity of people in there. We've got offices, we've got a holistic vet, we've got a weight loss, we've got a spray tan, we've got 3 hairdressers. It's really helping downtown. So the west side, which includes the outdoor area that isn't the park that we own, is almost completely full. And if need be, we'll do this thing on the empty one. But we need to get this one done first. Once this is done, we can continue because we want downtown. I've been here 38 years. I want downtown to start moving. And I think we can get it done. We can at least get it started. And you know how that works. You can get a little bit going and then other people come in and, you know. I've even got people interested in the City Hall project that you'll be seeing from in about 6 months that you're going to be very happy about. So this is our purpose. Our purpose really isn't money, even though we're our businessmen, we need money as an energy, as a tool. But, you know, I live here, I love it here. A lot of my family have moved to Florida.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Move approval of agenda item 4.2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.2. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? Mr. Albrecht.
I love this project. This is, I think, a best use of the CRA money. Listen, this whole block a couple of years ago was like a third world country. And I remember when this place was a furniture store. I don't know how many years, 2 decades ago? I mean, a long time ago. 30 years ago.
Thank you.
So I think having a mixed use with apartments is just what downtown needs. I think the more people we can get down here, the better. This sounds like it's just the kind of project, and I'm glad that we're doing something constructive. It doesn't seem like, at least to me, that we've really tried with the CRA money to get things moving downtown, right on Cleveland Street. This is still in the CRA, and it's part of the people coming from the beach. It's the gateway. It's people leaving the beach, and I'm so glad that we have something a little better looking on the other side on Court Street going to the beach now. So I am fully on board. I got this, studied this package, it all came in my package before the meeting, so I got versed in going through everything on it, and it makes a lot of sense to me.
Mr.
A
Poloz.
comment, and based on Councilmember Albritton's comments, it kind of also spawned a question that I would have for the applicant. The money that you're requesting, I don't deny it's not a project that has value for that corridor. But that money that you're requesting, you weren't really clear either. Would it be for the development of that parcel, that project, or is it to buy the parking lot for additional parking?
It's for the development, but we could use some of that to buy more parking.
My recommendation is that it's restricted to the housing construction. That's what the CRA money is to be used for.
But if they
so-
don't get, I apologize for interrupting, but if they don't get that parking lot, do they still have 17 parking spots then?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Parking lot gets.
Sir,
So,
So right now, the building, there's a curved dome, and there's a one-story kind of addition to the rear of the building. They're removing that. That is a 17-space parking lot.
So
That's where
that's-
the parking lot comes from. It's land that they already own.
well, so because you mentioned it, they're actually considering acquiring the additional property. So that would in fact give them much more parking, which wasn't discussed at all, if I'm correct.
Correct. So, and this is another reason for the two-step process, right, and going through to refine the details. It's my recommendation to the CRA trustees that we don't worry whether or not they get that additional parking. Our interest is to reduce the cost to allow them to build housing units. If they want to raise additional funds to buy additional land and build additional parking, they can do that. If you want to make that a condition of the approval when we come back, you could. My recommendation is just to focus on the 17 parking spaces and 14 units. I believe that is adequate. If you wanted to tie approval on contingency on buying additional land and getting more parking, you certainly could. We could do that.
So that spurs another question. Is that parking lot that they're considering, that they brought up, is that large enough for another development? Or would, in your consideration, be a valuable piece of acquisition for that project, because now, depending on what type of retail or,
In our current environment, the most valuable use for that site, unfortunately, is parking, right? If we had more people downtown and higher density, then you could probably have a standalone retail or restaurant with no parking that would be solely dependent on foot traffic. But there's not enough space for a drive-through, there's not enough space for another building and parking. So it really is an out parcel, right?
well, so then here's just another concept. That is a contiguous parking lot to this project. With that contiguous parking lot and this blighted building, that does have the potential, with no height restrictions, to be a major project for downtown in that corridor, given the fact that possible another developer some other time. Is that not true also?
I love to dream big as well, but I don't own that property, so I'm not proposing to tell them
Okay.
how to develop it.
Yeah.
Mr. Condo.
You know, I'm looking forward to step two, but I'm also in favor of granting the request. And I like the fact that we're putting in a little bit lower cost housing in the downtown area.
Again, this has drummed up a mathematical question for me, and Ray may be the one that needs to answer it. So Ray, I don't know if you need to come back up or not, but in the $3.6 million budget to build the total concept, does that include the acquisition of the additional parking?
No, and totally keep you up to date on it, he doesn't want to sell it to us. So this guy is extraordinarily wealthy. He gets big rent from Walgreens. He has a lot of them across the country. And every time I talk to him, he says, I don't ever sell. So it's been quite my sign's on it to build a suit. I've only had one inquiry in the last 3 years, 2 years.
Because, I like the concept. Don't get me wrong, I'm a lot more comfortable if you have that additional parking. And I don't know, I don't understand the reason I own property myself, but if it makes sense to sell it, or doesn't make sense to hold on to it because you really can't do anything to it,
Right.
I don't understand that, but I'm afraid, I like the idea of making it contingent, the 500,000 contingent on getting that property, but if the property is just not available because the owner refuses to sell, I don't want that to impede the project itself. So I'm going to be voting in favor of this, but if I can talk to the owner and try and convince him to sell that piece, just because it makes, I think it helps everybody.
I can assure you that I will not stop trying to get that parcel. And I think I'll get the job done. I actually maintain it, and so I'm in constant communication with the agent for the owner.
Well, Council, I'm a little uncomfortable with this project. I think there's too many unanswered questions that are still out there. And with all due respect, paying $500,000 for 14 apartment units really isn't going to move the needle on people coming into downtown Clearwater.
Those storefronts.
It doesn't matter. I'm not convinced that you're going to be able to do that, given your track record, despite what you're saying, sir.
How's that?
Sir, we're not going to get into a debate. I have the floor now. I'm not asking any questions. You may sit down. We're paying $500,000 for 14 apartments. We don't know what the rent's going to be on those apartments. We're not sure it's going to help the foot traffic in downtown. And we don't know about the parking situation. I think some more work needs to get done, and council be given, the trustees be given more information before we go forward in approving this. Motion has been made and seconded
Oh,
to,
wait a minute.
I'm sorry, Ms. Aiken?
Now, as I understand it, if you pass this motion, what you're really approving, you're not approving the project. You are authorizing negotiation. So you still have an opportunity when it comes back to either approve or not approve, to approve the agreement as recommended by staff or not. So this is merely authorization to go forward with negotiation and to some extent getting direction from you about what you would like to see in that. And I think you have given some suggestions and direction, and Ms. Thompson has
But they can
clarified.
still negotiate and
Yes.
whether we approve this or not.
Yes, however, if council vote, excuse me, if the trustees vote against at this point, there's really no reason for us to continue negotiations. So this is really a request to negotiate, and if you don't wish us to negotiate with them, then we won't. If you're not interested in this project, then we won't go forward with that.
And if you are, then
Yeah, we
will
will.
take all these notes.
Well, what was the step 2 then that you were talking about?
So step 2 would be to bring forward the grant agreement with zoning approved plans, with all the financing laid out, with the construction timeline, with more information as you're asking regarding foot traffic, right, this or that. Obviously we need something that's zoning compliant. We want to think through all those things. I don't want to get ahead of the trustees, right? So I'm not going to start down a path with, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, without knowing where we're sitting and having authorization to do so.
Ms. Aiken's comment sort of changed
No.
a little bit.
Not for me, Mayor. This,
Yeah.
this was sloppy, incomplete, and I'm a dream bigger. So I think you know which direction I'm going to go. And there's a new council going to be here in a month. So I'm not going to vote to bind them to a project that I'm not comfortable with as well.
Ms.
Just to
Aiken,
clarify, it's not binding,
it's not binding.
but you are giving direction
Well, it's,
that
I understand.
that the trustees want us to move forward. But and this is for everyone, it is not binding. This is direction to negotiate. Just want to make sure our applicants understand that, and they do.
Okay. So what have you gathered from us before we vote, Ms. Thompson?
Yes, so I have a couple of notes. One, clear about the total project cost, whether it includes land acquisition or not for additional parking, those sources of financing, a timeline, what types of uses will be used on the ground floor, how we think it will influence, perception or foot traffic, right? The impact that we anticipate it will have on downtown.
Okay. I'm still uncomfortable with the 500,000 for 14 units.
Right, and although the housing is the incentive part, the whole building will be redone. Right, so it is a $2.9 million construction project.
And then clarify for us again, and I apologize, council or trustees, but if we don't approve this, then reference was made to United Healthcare coming in?
So today, and I don't know that it's United Healthcare, but if you look at the building today, for it to be viable, they're going to have to remove the rear half and build some more parking. Because right now they just have this strip of a couple spaces in front of the building. If they touch that building, right, over a certain amount, they're gonna have to meet our downtown design standards, which means they're gonna have to bring that building up to the street, right? And that's probably, I don't know that it's a key corner, I assume it is, right? So you have to have a certain amount of openness with the windows, the transparency. So you're looking at a lot of money, right, to bring that building up to our code. They're gonna have to provide for parking. And for them to spend a minimum amount of money but get a viable use in there, it's going to be medical office or some kind of generic office, right? Insurance, tax preparation, which doesn't meet any of our downtown revitalization goals. It's not bad, it's an improvement, but that's not going to generate foot traffic, that's not providing housing. And if they go up a floor, they could put 4 units on top of that new footprint that they're going to have to build, which again, that's not bad. that's what they can do based on the rents that they could generate today, right? The uses and the rents that they could generate today. That's what they can do with the funding that they have. If we give the incentive, then that allows them to build more housing units. So that's the difference. The difference is they can still improve the building. It's just going to be a use that provides no or less housing and does not generate as much pedestrian foot traffic or provide those services. So that's the trade-off, right? The incentive is to get a more intense use that aligns with the downtown plan.
So I guess, I mean, where I'm coming from after all of this is, I am voting yes to continue the negotiation, but with full, reserving the right to not vote in favor of it if we don't, see. But hopefully, the applicant will be able to come forward and say, look, we're going to be able to get that. We've secured the other property. We've got this. We're ready to roll, and that'd be great news. But I'm willing to let it continue to see where we can get on the next step.
Right. I'm going to agree with you, Mr. Hamilton. I am not comfortable with what you're presenting. Okay? I'm not comfortable giving $500,000 for 14 apartment units. I think that's,
So what's your number?
It's not going to be mine to come up with, but it certainly wouldn't be. But I think it's too big, given what they said about we've got these lines of credits and we can get all this money, we're not the United Way.
Do 5 stories, do 10 stories.
Yeah.
Why limit yourself to 3?
So, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries 4-1 with Mr. Poglaze in opposition. Agenda item 4.3.
Yes, approve the First Amendment to the facade grant for 808 Court Street Shopping Center in the amount of $39,825, accept the facade preservation easement, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. So, as you know, under our facade grant program, the CRA director has approval to issue grants up to $25,000. When this project first went through, they thought they'd have a $50,000 project cost, so that put them under my spending limit authority. And then as it continued, they did a few more improvements around lighting, and the project cost increased. So we're here today to ask for you to approve the additional $19,000 for this facade grant amendment.
Questions of staff on agenda item 4.3?
Well, for the public's knowledge, 808 Court Street is in the block between Myrtle and
Prospect.
Or Prospect.
Yes.
Myrtle, yeah, on the north side of the street,
Correct.
yes. Okay. And they've already done a lot of work on it, so it's definitely been improved.
Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 4.3?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 4.3.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.3. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4.4.
Thank you. Approve an agreement between the Community Redevelopment Agency and Amplify Clearwater, a Florida nonprofit corporation, to produce and manage downtown Clearwater events in an amount not to exceed $40,000 through September 30th, 2021, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. So to give you a little bit of background on this request, we have been here a little over 2 years at this point, and learned a lot about the events process and special events in downtown. And one thing we know is that events are a lifeblood to a downtown. They're what makes a downtown unique. It's very important that you have events of all sizes occur throughout the year. And along with our marketing, these events are really key to attracting new audiences and changing the perception of downtown. And a pain point that I have heard over and over again for our merchants and some of our downtown organizations is that they simply do not have the staff to fill out the paperwork for events, pay for the cost of public safety, and that's something that really limits, right, the amount of events that we have in downtown. So hearing those concerns, knowing that we are going to be going through periods of construction with Imagine Clearwater and with Streetscape Phase 3, we really wanted to find a partner who can help lighten some of that load. So the CRA's portion of this request is asking that Amplify Clearwater handle the paperwork process and a base level of marketing for up to 10 events, 10 events of different sizes throughout downtown. They'll work with the CRA staff to identify which events that they're going to help with, and then the CRA will provide additional marketing on top of what Amplify will do. The second part of this, Parks and Recreation will be coming to you in your hat as City Council during the co-sponsorship process to request public subsidy for up to 10 events in downtown that are yet to be determined. Right, so what this will enable us to do is I'll get a call from someone who wants to produce a beer garden, right? And they have all the umbrellas and they have the beer distributors, but they need the volunteers, they need someone to be that local producer. Well, Amplify can fill out the paperwork, coordinate with Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec can coordinate the co-sponsorship, and then we can, whether Amplify decides to be the producer or some other organization does, then they will fill in on the volunteers for the staffing of the day of, right? And finding whatever talent would play at the beer garden, whatever that may be. But we've done our part to lift the administrative burden of having a special event in downtown. So what we would do is we'll be working hand in hand with Amplify. We're going to have 10 events of different sizes, and essentially the money is going towards paying those basic level marketing costs and then supplementing, right, their staff. Amplify, the last thing I'll say is that they are really uniquely suited for this for two reasons. One, they do events all the time. That is what they do, right? So they have expertise in that. And two, they are the umbrella for all business organizations. So when you're looking for sponsors, when you're looking to advertise and support local businesses, Amplify is that organization. So we're very excited about this. We think this is a great benefit for our businesses in the CRA and will ensure consistency and activity throughout the next 18 months.
Questions of staff on agenda item 4.4. Mr. Poglaze.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is definitely the right track. The chamber has been absent as a stakeholder in downtown for a long time. So I think the co-joining of the beach and the Chamber of Commerce is a great idea, and it's nice to see them step up and be part of the solution and a stakeholder. I didn't hear them invest in anything other than the resources we're going to pay them. I'm just saying that as a comment. And then the other thing is, so 10 events, and Parks and Rec are represented well here. One large scale, is there any clue, a guesstimate, and I know it's preliminary, but since they're going to be coming back to the council with another ask, whether it's additional cash or in kind, what maybe does 10 events look like for the second ask from Parks and Rec? Or is Amplify going to come up with some of their resources for manpower for these events? Because I for sure know there's a lot of manpower.
I think so. So how we've broken it out is by size: 1 large, 2 medium, 3 small, and 4 arts oriented. And the reason why we're doing this now and not October 1st, right, or later, is because we're going to use this period between now and then, obviously, as once life returns more back to normal, to solicit ideas. Right, and really find out what people have always been wanting to do but haven't been able to for some reason, giving us time to attract, for the larger scale event. I imagine it will be a multi-organization partnership. We want to do something on the scale of whether it's the food truck rally or the carnival or, right, something really big and exciting and different. But we're going to use this time to really solicit those ideas and find that talent or those other producers. So I'm sorry, this seems to be my mistake today of we always want the fine details, right? And I'm kind of starting at the framework point first. But the reason it's set up this way is that the city, the CRA, Amplify, I think we kind of have the things we've done. We've done Blast Fridays with Ruth Eckert. We've done Sugar Sand, right? We have our big signature events. But I really want to build the capacity of different organizations to produce events in downtown, and I want to work really hard to invite in new ideas and new audiences. And that's what this is designed to do. So we're going to immediately, once this is approved, start a process of generating those ideas, and then we'll know a lot more in August.
Granted, 40,000 is not a lot of money to kickstart this thing, get it going. But I'll just give you an example since you mentioned Blast Friday. We still subsidize Blast Friday to the tune of 100,000.
Yes, we do.
Multiple organizations. So that's why I think it's relevant to at least bring the second ask up. If one large event's going to be another 100 grand, I mean, I don't know if you can solicit ideas what the schedule is going to look like ahead of time, but a little more detail. I don't know if anybody else has that kind of concern. I guess 40,000 is a great idea to begin to forge that relationship with the chamber and engage Parks and Rec. But if they come back with if they're not successful, which we hope they are, bringing sponsorships to help offset these costs. Ruth Eckerd Hall hasn't been super successful in bringing a lot of sponsorships because they're still getting the $100 subsidies, so, and 100,000. And the intent from 15 years ago when Blast Friday started, or a dozen, whatever it was not for us, not for the taxpayers to continually subsidize Blast Friday, yet we are, so. That's my only comment I have, thank you.
Any other questions, Council?
City manager has a comment.
Ms. Horn?
Mayor, Council, I'd just like to share this perspective. We've got a different landscape in our downtown. We have been the subject of a tremendous amount of criticism over time about what it is we're not doing and what we are doing. I mean, we're kind of caught in the middle. And so now that has forced us to really look at different ways of going about establishing partnerships and trying to find the sweet spot of what's going to bring people into the downtown. So we're not going to have all those answers. And we're going to have to take some risk. And I understand the uneasiness about not having all the details when you're being asked to fund something.
Mm-hmm.
But look at it from our perspective as your staff. You know, we're doing the very best we can with a market that is hard to figure out. And so in the past, we have been, in my perspective, a little bit ambivalent about what we want the private sector to do in coming asking us for money. Sometimes we try to play hardball and, you know, we're not going to fund something, you know, and then sometimes we think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I think fundamentally, you know, we just have to take a chance on what's coming through. If we don't like it, we say we don't like it. We don't want to fund it. End of story. I mean, you really got to do that because we're in a very difficult position. And we want people to believe us when we talk to them about what, you know, might be possible. We never, ever tell someone the council is this way about anything unless you all tell us that because we don't want to get out in front of you. But we're just in a very difficult environment right now. And we understand the uneasiness. So when we have these kinds of conversations, the best thing you can do is be very unequivocal. You know, and if you're not unequivocal, that's okay. But let us move on, and then we come back with something that might be more comfortable. But I just think that we're in a position where the landscape is changing, and let us try and facilitate, you know, where ultimately you will have a comfort level.
Right. Well, I think the caveat, if I may respond to the city manager, Mayor, is that nobody disagrees businesses will not survive with foot traffic and additional downtown events. 100% agree with that. The concern that I have is that we get past this first step and the second ask comes where we're at another $250,000 to support downtown events. So at that point, council would have the opportunity, the decision-making ability to go, okay, no, go find more sponsors or cut back, or we're not going to do this or that one. So I mean, it could happen, and so we should be aware of that. This isn't, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Anybody for the public to speak to agenda item 4.4?
Make a motion to approve agenda item 4.4.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 4.4. Comments, council? Mr. Albrecht.
Yeah, and I agree with Mr. Horn. You know, you constantly got to be looking at this picture of downtown, and you can't be in the same frame of mind all the time on things. The DDB they're going through the same thing. They're looking at it going, you know, maybe events aren't the best thing to do. Maybe we should put our money here. So it's a constant back and forth on what they think is the best way to spend the money to promote our downtown. And that's the only thing I wanted to say.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Thompson, do you have anything further for the CRA?
Yes, I did just want to show you guys the 3 conceptual designs for the Mercado. Let's see here. So if we could get this brought up on the screen. So as part of the Streetscape Phase 3 construction, we will be constructing the Market Festival Plaza Mercado area at the same time. Right now, we have 3 conceptual designs we're working with. We've had 1 neighborhood meeting in the downtown gateway. We're soliciting online feedback. We'll have 1 more. And then we will be bringing forward, most likely in May, a recommended final design. So this is Scheme A. And I would love to hear if you have any initial impressions or feedback. So there will be a small block of street that's closed as part of this that expands the plaza area. So that's Scheme A. And this is Scheme B. And this is Fabric. And with each design, the architect has incorporated lighting that matches the concept, as well as different markings for the pavement that ultimately would be in color. Right, it's just shown in a grayscale right now because it's early on. And this is Scheme C. And so what we've heard is that this area should be able to be used for a variety of events, which is why there's more hardscape. There obviously will be landscaping added around the edges as part of the streetscaping, and as the design gets more refined. We've already heard people say, oh, it's too much concrete, we want more green, which we do. It will not be a lawn area though, right, because people want to set up markets here, they want to have dances, right, they potentially want food trucks.
Mr. Hamilton?
Yeah, I mean, they all have, to me, positive merit, but I'd really like to see the conceptuals incorporating more of what the actual buildings around it are today. Because, I mean, these pictures look like we're out on the beach or something. It's kind of deceiving. You know, these pictures make you think you're out on the beach because it looks like there's water or something beyond
Right.
it. So I'd really like to see how these concepts incorporate themselves into the existing structures that are around it. I think that'd be interesting to be able to see.
I'm going to echo that, Mr. Hamilton, because a Mercado to me suggests a Hispanic influence, And that's what this part of Clearwater is about. I'm not on the beach, and those colors make me think that I should be on the beach. I think we're missing what a Mercado's supposed to be with those drawings.
Ditto, both comments.
Okay?
All right, great.
At least he had a little Hispanic influence to it. All right, anything else?
That is all I have.
Okay, any other comments, council, for the CRA? If not, we will adjourn the CRA and reconvene our work session for March the 16th, agenda item 3.1.
Amend the city's fiscal year 2019-2020 operating and capital improvement budgets at first quarter and pass the appropriate ordinances on first reading. Ms. Castle.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Kayleen Castle, Budget Manager. This is the first quarter budget review for the fiscal year 2019-20 budget. This report includes 3 months of activity, October through December, and also includes council action to date. In the general fund, revenues and expenditures are increased by $128,002. General fund amendments include an increase of $810 for the departments that receive safety awards. These are funded by revenues from the Central Insurance Fund. The transfer of $9,199 to the Marine Fund for reimbursement of slips 149 and 150, which are used for the ferry landing, and that is associated with an agreement previously approved by council. And the transfer of $117,993 to the Memorial Causeway Lighting Project, which is offset by the return of revenue from the closed ULI report implementation special program. Adjusted for all items in this report, general fund reserves are approximately $39.6 million, or 26.1% of the current year's general fund budget. This exceeds our minimum reserve requirement by $26.7 million at first quarter. Expenditure amendments in the Solid Waste and Recycling Fund reflect a transfer of $841,262 to the Nord Underground Refuse System Project. This is offset by an allocation of fund reserves as previously approved by the council. Amendments to the Air Park Fund expenditures reflect a transfer of $3,893 to the Ground Support Equipment Replacement Project to provide matching funds as previously approved. Significant amendments to the Parking Fund expenditures include an increase of $96,710 for the United Public Safety Agreement and the increase of $93,415 for the Jolly Trolley Spring Break Agreement. Both of these agreements were previously approved by the council using budgeted excess operating revenues in the parking fund to cover this expenditure increase. In the Capital Improvement Fund, an increase of $1,034,201 is reflected at first quarter. This increase is primarily the result of the following amendments, which you'll all recognize as they have all been previously approved. This includes an increase of $841,262 of solid waste fund revenue and $544,228 of lease purchase revenue in the underground refuse program project, a transfer of $117,993 of general fund revenue in the new Memorial Causeway Lighting Project, and $15,574 in grant revenue from FDOT, and $3,893 in Air Park Fund revenues for the new ground support equipment replacement project. Other amendments to capital projects in this report include the decrease of $563,000 in administrative services fund revenue in the Advanced Enterprise Audio Video Project, an increase of $50,194 in reimbursement revenues from the Florida Department of Transportation in the Traffic Signals Project, an increase of $23,818 of lease purchase proceeds in the Miscellaneous Vehicle Additions Project, an increase of $15,231 of reimbursement revenues from the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority in the Streets and Sidewalks Project. And finally, with the closure of the completed Druid Road Trail Project, we were able to transfer an additional $206,000 of Penny for Pinellas revenue to the Belmont Park Revitalization Project, and this amendment will provide the additional funds needed to complete park renovations. In the special program fund, an increase of $2,727,622 is reflected at first quarter. Significant amendments include the recognition of $531,543 in governmental revenues supporting police programs for investigative recovery, federal forfeiture sharing, the new pedestrian and bicycle safety grant, and school resource officers. $453,032 in governmental revenues from the Juvenile Welfare Board for the 2019-20 summer and after-school programs at our recreation centers. $247,778 in FEMA reimbursements. $290,853 of miscellaneous revenues transferred to the new Affordable Housing and Community Development Program. $20,381 in donation revenues to support police and library programs. $15,000 in foreclosure registry fees have been collected. $207,652 in revenues received for special events over the last quarter. $43,006 in interest earnings from fiscal year 19. $521,356 in fines and court proceeds for public safety programs, the lien foreclosure program, and the tree replacement program, and $397,017 in contractual service revenue for police extra duty. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 3.1? I'm going to ask you to repeat something because I'm a little frustrated hearing that we have no reserves and that we need to build our reserves. So would you repeat again what our projected general fund reserves are and?
Sure. As included in this report, our general fund reserves, which is projected through the end of the year, not just at first quarter, is $39 million. How about let me just
Yeah, let's start.
$39.6 million, which is 26.1% of the current year's general fund budget. This exceeds our minimum reserve requirement by $26.7 million.
So we're supposed to have roughly $14 million in our reserves to meet our standard, and we're up to 30, almost 40 million.
Our policy is 8.5% of the current general fund budget. And so, yeah, that excess is above that 8.5%. And yeah, that's a low percentage. We always
Right.
want to remind you of that. That is a low percentage to have as a requirement.
But so to our residents who think that we don't have any reserves, we're in pretty good shape with our reserves.
We have been recovering.
And part of that was because of some, not only cost savings that we've had, but because of the millage increase that we adopted, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Hamilton?
Yeah, I think the comment I'd like to make is, everybody, the 13 people running to take over to be in the 3 seats after tomorrow, a lot of them have been out there saying, oh, I'm going to be fiscally responsible. Well, I can remember when we voted to buy the CMA property next to City Hall, we took our reserves at that point went down to about, and correct me if I'm wrong, we went down somewhere around $3.5 million total in reserves above our minimum requirement. Is that correct? I mean, is that about right?
I can't remember.
That's
It was
the numbers I'm recalling.
It was.
And we were all nervous about that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to compliment our staff because our reserves come in a large part from monies our staff budgets and then don't spend. And doesn't get spent because of their good actions. So all these people out there saying, I'm going to be fiscally responsible and I'm going to this, I would suggest you need to just come in here and keep doing what we've been doing, because I think it's been very successful. So, and I know it's been...
12 other people.
So, yeah, or 12 other people that wanted, one is hoping to stay here. And, but it just, to show that our reserves are that healthy right now, I think deserves a lot of credit to our staff as well as us. And I don't mean to pat myself or us on the back. I think we need to be, I think we should be very comfortable with what we're
Yep.
doing.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. And then to put a damper on all of that, the stock market is
Oh,
down
yeah.
another 2,000 points today, so I don't know what that's going to do to our even though, we have that smoothing curve of 5 years, we're looking at, some real concerns. So hopefully in the next 6 months, the market will recover at least
Hopefully
some
it'll
of
be a
it.
quick recovery after we
lost.
get past this.
Any other questions on 3.1? Then it will be on our agenda Friday night, or Thursday night. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4.1.
Approve the purchase of excess property insurance, including bridges, boiler and machinery, and terrorism coverages from April 1, 2020 through April 1, 2021 at the level of insurance provided for in this agenda item, an amount not to exceed $2.8 million at the property rate of .347 per $100 of values through April 1, 2021, and authorize the appropriate official to execute same. Mr. Osorio.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Good morning, everyone. Rick Osorio, Risk Manager. The Risk Management Division requested Arthur J. Gallagher and Company to obtain quotes for our excess property insurance expiring April 1st, 2020. After a review of quotes received, we're requesting a renewal of our current coverage with Berkshire Hathaway Insurance Group with a layer of coverage limits composed of other various carriers. As a result of recent appraisals on city structures, which resulted in a 17% increase in our values, current market conditions, and our incumbent carrier AIG offering to renew our policy at a premium, which was not competitive to the market, we had no choice but to seek other carriers to provide this coverage. With the proposed renewal with Berkshire Hathaway and additional carriers, our coverages and deductibles essentially stay the same, except for an increase in our flood insurance and boiler and machinery coverage and a 5% SR for named storms with no maximum deductible. The city insures 3 city bridges on a standalone policy through Zurich. This program was renewed in 2019 and incorporates a 3-year guarantee which will expire during our 2022 policy year. This is the second year of the rate agreement, rate guarantee agreement. Our premium for the 2021 policy year includes an increase in bridge values of 5%. The requested renewal maintains our current coverage for terrorism, property and liability, which also provides coverage for nuclear, biological, chemical, and radioactive terrorism coverage. Total premiums for this renewal are estimated to be $2,730,002, which represents an increase of 56% from last year's premium. Staff recommends adding a contingency to a not to exceed amount of $2,800,000. In conclusion, the Risk Management Division is respectfully requesting renewal of these recommended coverages, which will continue to cover the city's property risks at levels and rates which represent a reasonable insurance program for the city. I do have Chris Connolly and Danny Chiste here from Arthur J. Gallagher available for any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 4.1? Mr. Osorio, you were saying that you were going to try to work on tweaking these numbers maybe a little bit down the road. Do we need to do anything to try to help you out?
Yes, sir. We're hoping to meet with Berkshire Hathaway in April of this year to extend our current 1-year program for property coverage to maybe 1 or 2 more years to, initiate some savings. So we're working on that. I do also want to add as an offset, if it makes anybody feel better, is our claims for the past 3 or 4 years have also diminished, which also helps. Our workers' comp and liability basically renews flat, so we have some offset savings in other areas in our finances. So this is kind of helping and buffering a little bit the increase we're facing this year. So.
Consent?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Agenda item 5.1.
No, 4.2.
4.2.
4.2.
Not on the mic.
That's what. Yeah.
4.2.
Yeah, authorize a purchase order to Fastenal Company for citywide facility MRO, industrial and building supplies with related equipment, accessories, supplies, and vending services in the amount not to exceed $1,230,000 for the period of April 1, 2020 through January 25th, 2023, per Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Section 2.5641D, other government entities contracts, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Ravens.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Jay Ravens, Finance Director. This item is a request to authorize a not-to-exceed purchase order totaling $1,230,000 to Fastenal Company for the period April 1st, 2020 through January 25th, 2023. This contract will provide a reliable, convenient, cost-competitive source for industrial supplies and equipment used by various departments across the city. Items will be available to departments via industrial vending machines located at city department locations or at the Clearwater Fastenal store. We have Fastenal representatives in attendance today if you have any specific questions for them.
Any questions on, what are we at? 4.2. Mr. Publis.
Thank you, Mayor. So through vending machines, maybe just, is this for like liquid materials?
I believe it's more for equipment and safety supplies.
Okay, because the vending,
My understanding is employees that we determine we want to authorize would be equipped with swipe cards.
okay,
That would allow them to access the machines as supplies are needed during the workday.
Okay. I didn't realize Fastenal did all that, okay.
Would you like some additional information on that? We at Public Utilities utilize this. I'm sorry, David Porter, Public Utilities Director. We utilize this service quite a lot. As you know, we've got activities going on 24 hours a day. And one of the things that this company supplies to us is PPE, personal protection equipment. So at any time of the day or night, our employees now can get access to all types of personal protection equipment, which we couldn't do previously. So this works out very well. We also dispense things like special saw blades and, all kinds of industrial equipment that we need to do our job 24 hours a day. We're not the only department, but we're one of the larger users.
This is like similar to like Grainger as far as the products
In
and
a way,
services they provide?
yeah, in a way, except that the difference is we actually have vending machines. Don't think of it as like a Coke machine, it's a great big wall.
Yeah.
With, think of it like the old style vending machines for dinners. So you have a swipe card, it identifies who you are, how many items you've taken, what you do with it, so we can keep track of it and monitor it to be sure that people aren't abusing the system. But even things like safety devices, industrial equipment, saw blades,
Okay, good, just didn't realize. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff on agenda item 4.2? Consent?
Yes.
Thanks. 5.1.
Approve a purchase order in the amount of $120,000 with Long and Associates, Inc., engineer of record, to provide design services for the compressed natural gas filling station on Hercules Avenue, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Langell.
Good morning, Brian Langdale, Assistant Director for Clearwater Gas System. We hired Long & Associates last year to do an audit on our filling station on Hercules, so they could look at the needs and assessments that we're going to need for the next 5+ years. So some of the items that they looked at were the equipment that we have on site and having good redundancy at the site to make sure if we have any compressor issues like that in the future that we've had in previous years, that we are able to refuel the vehicles in a timely manner. We make sure that everything is operating properly when we have a piece of equipment down for maintenance in an emergency situation or even scheduled maintenance. So other items that they looked at were optimizing the gas flow to the dispenser units, essentially gallons per minute going into the vehicles when you have a high volume of vehicles there at one time. We're going to talk about the garbage trucks. You may have one garbage truck there, and then you may have 5 garbage trucks come up right at the same time. So we want to make sure that we optimize our gallon per minute flow going to the vehicles. We also wanted to look at standardizing the parts that we have in stock, and that way we are not purchasing numerous parts for different pieces of equipment in the future. And also, they are providing design services. Basically, they're going to be partnering with a subcontractor to work forward and doing design plans, 30, 60, 90% design drawings for us to permit this in the future. We would be coming back to you at a later date with a design build contract to move forward with it.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 5.1? Mr. Albritton?
Well, I know you had some issues with a pump there that had parts that were hard to get. I guess that's been replaced now with the new one?
The equipment is still there on site. We purchased the mobile unit last year, and it was installed at the site in July of last year. So we're working on 2 compressors right now. So we're at full capacity, but if we have an issue with one going down, we would still be in that same boat where we would need to have either supplement, another portable CNG compressor coming in on site, or it would be slower fill times for the garbage trucks.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other questions? So this will help eliminate the problems that we've been, it sounds like we're doing like a total redesign of the station.
Well, it's not a total redesign. It's really adding additional equipment to make sure that we don't have the issues that we did in the past. So we're really looking at adding another compressor, maybe 1 or 2 compressors on site at the existing footprint of the station. So that way we have a little more capacity and redundancy at the same time. So we're not fully at full capacity with the garbage trucks yet. We still have about 10 more garbage trucks that need to be converted over. So we're getting pretty close to that point where we're going to be at the full capacity within the city. And plus, we also have outside vendors that use it. Frontier uses it, and also Waste Pro uses it. We did have Waste Management for many years, but then they built their own facility on their site, so they don't use it as much. But they still occasionally will come through and use it.
If I can just clarify, just to follow up on the question that was asked, Chuck Warrington, Managing Director, or Executive Director now, of the gas system. A key part of this is replacing that bad piece of equipment that we need to get out of there and get a new piece of equipment in there. We're looking at the overall design at the same time, but that prompted this request.
And the station is how old? I'm sorry, Mr. Hamilton?
Yeah, my question, this agenda item is strictly for the design services. Do we have any idea what the actual project cost will be when this comes back?
Yeah, we're estimating right around 1.5 million for the design.
And the money is already budgeted and available through the gas?
Yes, it will be budgeted and available, yes.
But don't mumble that last part. The money's going to come from where?
From the gas, sir. From the gas department.
Okay.
Correct.
Not from our ice
Right, yeah, okay. All right. Consent?
Yep.
6.1.
Approve a partnership agreement with Three Score Softball Club and the City of Clearwater for use of city fields for senior adult programs from March 19, 2020 through March 18, 2021, with the option of 5 additional 1-year renewals to be approved by the city manager or his designee, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Chris Cook, Senior Manager of Events and Athletics at Parks and Recreation. This partnership agreement for Three Score that was read is a continuation of a long-term relationship we've had with this group. It services a vital programming need for us to serve the over 60 population. Right now they have over 200 members, which is they consider over 130 of them they consider very active. Their play on our fields comes at a good time for us, as the weekly Monday through Friday usage during the daytime isn't a heavily used time at our facilities. And then in return for the field usage, they provide up to 20 hours per volunteer, or 20 volunteer hours per member for things such as our ESPN tournament, or an FCA tournament, or any other service projects that we have. In return for that, as well as the field space, the city does take care of the grounds, the utilities, and we have a liaison from our office that will work with them when things like what's going on right now is happening, where we've been in communication with them the last several days
about a postponement for when they can start their season based upon the latest CDC recommendations. With that, I'll take any other questions.
Any other questions, Mr. Hamilton?
I guess from, my question is, because this is probably unnecessary, but with having 5 additional one-year renewals on top of the one we're being asked to approve today, since they really can't play for the next few weeks, should we make the effective date starting April 1st? Or does that really, when you're looking at what could conceivably be a 5-year agreement, this blip on the radar probably is insignificant in the overall picture, but should we, postpone the effective date till April 1st? Because they're probably not going to be playing before then anyways.
Yeah,
I don't know.
What we've told them at this point is we'll stay in communication with them as any updates come and we have a date where it can start, but we're certainly open.
I mean, we can make it effective tomorrow or the 19th, and it's going to be for the next 5 to 6 years anyways, but, so I'm not sure a couple weeks right now make that big a difference, but it's something to consider.
But we've told them that they cannot play now.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, sir. It would probably be better for us to keep it on the same timeline. The start of the season is at this point. So if we pushed it back to April, we may miss part of it, I guess, when we get to the end of the agreement. It might mess up the timelines for the renewals.
Okay.
So we probably prefer to keep it what it is now.
That makes sense.
Okay. Consent?
Yep.
6.2.
Approve a proposal by construction manager at risk, Certus Builders of Tampa, Florida, in the amount of $108,375 for renovations and construction of restrooms at Philip Jones Park located at 1190 Russell Street, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. I'm Art Cater, Interim Parks and Recreation Director. I'm happy to report the item before you is the final phase of construction and renovation for the Philip Jones restroom concession building. As you will remember, renovations to this building have been done in phases since the building is in a flood zone, and FEMA regulations only allow you to do 50% of the depreciated value, and that building was not a whole lot when we first started. So it's been 5 years and 4 contracts, and this is the final one. It will be for the renovation of the women's restroom facility and expansion of the facility. It's a 90-day contract. It'll be completed prior to the opening of the Greenwood Panther football season. With that, if you have any questions.
Any questions on 6.2? Consent? 6.3.
Approve a proposal by construction manager at risk, Keystone Excavators, Inc. of Oldsmar, Florida, in the amount of $956,158.59 for Phase 2 site improvements at Countryside Sports Complex located at 3060 McMullen Booth Road, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same.
Art Cater, Interim
Cater
Parks and
again.
Recreation Director. Thank you. Well, last Friday, March the 13th, we had a ribbon cutting ceremony at the Countryside Sports Complex, and basically dedicating Phase 1 renovations and constructions of the restroom, locker room facility. I want to take this opportunity to thank the mayor and council members that were able to attend that ceremony. We do appreciate that so much. This contract before you today is for the actually Phase 2, or the completion of the project that is going on at the sports complex. It will include basically renovation of the lighting systems that we have on there at the major facility or the stadium field. It'll include drainage improvements, the removal of all the old buildings that have been out there, and an expansion of the north field, parking lot improvements, driveway improvements, and landscaping irrigation. Again, this is a 90-day contract and will be completed prior to the opening of the Countryside football season. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Any questions on 6.3? Consent?
Yep.
Thank you. 7.1.
Authorize the Clearwater Police Department to accept a Florida Department of Health Helping Emergency Responders Obtain Support Heroes Program grant to update the department's Narcan supply in the valued amount of $39,438 and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Chief Slaughter.
Good morning, Chief Slaughter at the Police Department. The department first issued naloxone Narcan, as is commonly known, to select personnel in 2016 and then expanded it to all department personnel in 2017. Last year, in 2019, the department responded to 280 overdoses and deployed Narcan 21 times, saving 21 lives. Providing Narcan is a central tenet of the Pinellas County's opioid task force. In January of this year, the Florida Police Chiefs Association made Narcan available through the Florida Department of Health's their HEROES program, or otherwise known as the Helping Emergency Responders Obtain Support program. We applied for the very similar grant for Narcan in 2018. The most recent application was approved, allotting 590 doses or 295 packages of Narcan spray. The value of the Narcan that the department will receive is estimated to be at $39,438. There is no required match or adverse impact on the police department's annual operating budget, and we're requesting council to approve the acceptance of the grant.
Any questions of staff on 7.1? Consent? 8.1.
Approve a proposal from construction manager at risk, Certus Builders, in the amount of $1,030,588 for construction of a restroom at the Seminole Boat Ramp and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Chesney.
Good morning, Ed Chesney, Marine
Ed,
Aviation.
do you have your black vest on?
No, I trust we're going to be fine. They look harmless.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Looks so deceiving.
As you know, this is phase 2 of our Seminole Boat Ramp renovation project. And when this first came to you, there were concerns about price, and we were asked to look at some of the pricing units and possibly moving the restroom. Talk about the pricing first. We went back to the design consultant, the CM at Risk, and the architect, and we were able to save about 10% on the overall construction costs. And those savings weren't because there was anything elaborate about the construction. This is the standard construction of a restroom at a city facility, but we reduced some of the finishes. You know, there may be concrete instead of tile and so forth. But the overall cost of this restroom is because it's in the V zone. So looking at moving it out of the V zone, it would take it up the hill beyond the Playhouse Theater, pretty much at Osceola. And that was looked at early on, and we never considered that because of the distance from the restroom to the ramps. It would be over 500 feet walking downhill and uphill and competing with the trailer traffic. So when somebody arrives at the boat ramp, a carload of people, they wait in their car till they get next in line. The occupants step out, they'll use the restroom there, and the one driver will then park the trailer. So that minimizes foot traffic in the parking lot, which is busy with the trailer traffic in itself. But the building of that up the hill had cost too. It would still need a lift station. We would have to install utilities there. So the savings difference was really not that great when you compared it to what we were already proposing, and then we shaved off 10 to 11%. But building it in its current location is expensive because of the elevator and the lift station there. Now, if you'll remember, if you've looked in your packet, you saw other municipal governments that are also building restrooms in these flood zones, and most recently the Skyway Bridge, Benty Davis Beach, you'll see them over there, Honeymoon Island. It's a problem for us because of our flood insurance and our rating, so we can't build at grade, and the cost of doing this above the flood elevation is expensive. We have a small footprint there. We don't have the ability or the luxury of a large ramping system that we could build to get it to eliminate the elevator. So it was just problematic in that sense. I could go on, but if you have any specific questions, I know we looked at other modular type units that could be installed there, but those too would have to be elevated. So if you bought something, I looked at was this Portland Loo, which are these small units that you can purchase. They start about $90,000. That doesn't include installation, it doesn't include delivery, so those units we'd have to build some sort of a platform to elevate them as well. So just to purchase those modular units, we'd have to design them to be elevated, which they weren't designed to be elevated, so it's a little problematic there.
Questions on 8.1?
Questions not.
All right, are we comfortable putting it on consent and just having comments now, or do you want to pull it off consent and have it on the agenda?
I mean, I'm okay putting it on consent. I'm not happy, but, I mean, if I may say, you know, this is the federal government being ridiculous. I mean, if we could, I'd be more than happy to build this at grade and not insure it and take my chances on a storm destroying it. And if it did, I'll rebuild it. Because I can build this probably for half this price or less than half at grade. And we still have to have the pump station because you know what doesn't flow uphill. But it's just ridiculous that if we tried to build it at grade, not insure it, we would be putting our entire insurance of the city facilities at risk. And that just, it's a regulation that is unnecessary and needs to be taken away. Because a restroom facility shouldn't have to have an elevator to get into it, I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense. But regulations are what they are. That's not our regulation. You got to follow the rules in this situation, and I believe that, you know, staff's done a good job getting the number as low as it can be, even though I don't believe it needs to be that high, because I don't think we need to build up on stilts and have an elevator for a stupid bathroom. But it is what it is, so I'm going to be okay with it being on consent.
Mr. Albrecht?
You know, and I appreciate the meetings that you had with each one of us to explain, because originally when you brought this to us, it was shocking that that's what it would be. But I know you've looked at every variable on this. The position you have it in is a good position. And, you know, this is the way that they're building them now. I know that Bel Air has one like this, and I mean, I've seen them around. So as long as it doesn't have gold fitting, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, I know you've value engineered this down as much as you can, and it'll be really a convenience for the people that use Seminole Docks, which, by the way, when that is completed, will be beautiful. And I appreciate that. It's something that, you know, we've used a long time, the citizens of Clearwater, and you've really upscaled it and made it nice, convenient for everybody to launch their boat, because we are a boating community. So thank you.
Mr. Pugliese.
Thank you. I believe we will hear something from the public, but it should be good. And I think a couple key things that you said that really make this important is safety first. So I appreciate staff looking at it, value engineering, looking at a different location. A lot of things we didn't consider, lift station, for instance, possibly. So the savings wasn't there, but when it comes to safety first, large part of the boating community, there's going to be kids and family. So that restroom should be convenient and, most importantly, safe, because you're right. One guy's going to take it into the water, they drop the family off to get the restroom, go get bait or sodas at the shop, and then come back to the boat. They can't be walking all over that parking lot down the hill with big trailers, little trailers. A lot of that ramp is chaotic at best in the summertime. With the improvements we've made, it'll still be crowded, but I think hopefully much safer. So, thank you.
I can tell you yesterday firsthand, it was very, very busy this weekend. So
Yeah.
it's quite a popular place, and
Right.
we're using the portables now, so this restroom, people are really going to be happy when it is installed.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Kondo.
It's the best alternative, you know, compared to the others. It's more expensive, but not that much more expensive. And that definitely shows the overreach of government, federal government.
I I can't, not agree with every comment that our colleagues have made. I think we were all shocked, when we saw the price tag. It reminded us of the $100 hammer or $1,000 hammer, that went into space. But when you got into the numbers for us, you explained it very well, and that the alternatives, really would not present the savings that we would be comfortable with. And I think we need to repeat, just to remind our residents, that if we were to disregard this and build it at grade, then our flood insurance rate for the entire community would suffer, and everybody would be penalized. Is that correct, Mr. Chesney?
Yes, we're constantly improving our rating, trying to improve it. This would be a deduct from that, and it's counterproductive for us to do that.
And that would impact our residents
The city at large, yes.
probably much more so than this.
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
very good. So with that, thank you again for all the research that you and I know the engineering department did in reviewing all of this, and it will be an improvement for everybody who uses that dock. Thank you very much. Consent?
Yes.
9.1.
Approve the interlocal agreement between Pinellas County and the cities of Clearwater, Dunedin, Gulfport, Largo, Oldsmar, Pinellas Park, Safety Harbor, St. Petersburg, and Tarpon Springs for funding the Tampa Bay Estuary Program match of a Florida Department of Environmental Protection grant to develop a social marketing campaign focused on reducing sanitary sewer overflows and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Porter.
Good morning, David Porter, Public Utilities Director. This item came to you about 3 months ago. And at that time, the county was trying to work through their approval process as quickly as possible to meet a deadline that they had, and unfortunately, they weren't able to do so. So the process had to be rebooted or restarted. So we're back again today, restarting the process, asking you to approve the same thing I asked you to approve about 3 months ago, which is our participation in this project, this interlocal agreement, to fund a social marketing campaign to help us overcome sanitary sewer overflows. It's a marketing campaign and an information campaign for our citizens so they can understand the impacts that they might have on the sewer system. So with that, if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to.
Any questions? Mr. Condon?
Mine is a comment, if I may.
It's questions.
All right, I'll pass then.
Okay. Consent? 9.2.
Authorize the award of invitation to bid 16-20, corrosion control chemical polyortho blend to Shannon Chemical Corporation at Malvern, Pennsylvania, in an amount not to exceed amount of $110,000 with the option for 2 one-year extensions at the city's discretion, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Porter again.
Good morning again, David Porter, Public Utilities Director. I ask that you authorize us to purchase or award this contract and purchase corrosion control chemical, which we utilize at our water treatment facilities to help us combat corrosion in the city's pipeline systems, but also in our residents' homes. So this protects the copper piping in people's homes from corrosion as well. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be more.
Any questions on 9.2? Mr. Albritton?
Yeah, because of this coronavirus thing and the shortages, do we have any concerns with the city? We should be concerned about chemicals to you, getting a shortage of that for treatment?
It is definitely one of the things we're looking at right now. We are in the midst of planning for various eventualities that could happen with this coronavirus situation. One of the things that could impact this would be the inability to obtain chemicals. But at this point in time, there's no indication that's going to happen. So right now, we don't have a problem. We have chemicals and we're getting deliveries like normal. But should things differ, should things change, then that could be a problem. And we're working through that right now, trying to come up with contingency plans on how to deal with it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions on 9.2? Consent?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hull, you have a minute. Because CDC guidelines are to wash your hands every 2 hours at least.
Well, he can get one done.
All right, well then, let's just hold off and do them all. And let's take a recess.
You want to take a break
Yeah.
first? Okay.
Okay. We'll take a 10-minute recess and reconvene at 11:10. I was trying.
Sorry, Mr.
getting next to.
I'd like to reconvene the work session for March the 16th, agenda item 10.1.
Request authority to institute civil action on behalf of the city against General Underground LLC to recover $1,818.10 for damages to city property. Mr. Hull?
Mayor, members of council, Richard Hall, Assistant City Attorney. The employees of General Underground hit a 2-inch gas line of ours in Tarpon Springs, causing damage to the tune of $1,818. We've made 3 attempts to collect it and have been unsuccessful, so we're asking authority to bring suit against them.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 10.1? Consent? 10.2.
Request authority to institute civil action on behalf of the city against Acerbo Inc. to recover $1,579.97 for damages to city property.
Again, Richard Hall, Assistant City Attorney. We're seeking authority under this item to bring suit against Acerbo Incorporated to recover $1,579 in damages caused by their employees who, using an excavator, hit one of our 2-inch gas lines in Largo, causing the damage.
Questions of staff on agenda item 10.2? Mr. Hamilton?
If the damages were $1,579.97, and we want to, you're asking for us to be able to recover that, but we're also looking at a $175 filing fee and approximately $60 in fees for processing. Why aren't we including that extra $235 in the amount of money we're trying to recover? Because we shouldn't have to, why should we incur the cost of filing and everything when?
It is included in that.
That's part of the.
The costs are they're always included. We just don't, they're not part of the damages, but they're part of the costs that we can recover if we're successful.
Okay.
Any other questions on 10.2? Consent?
Yep.
Yes.
10.3.
Request authority to initiate foreclosure actions on behalf of the city to recover amounts owed on municipal liens imposed against certain real property. Mr. Fuino.
Thank you, Ms. Aiken. Mayor, members of council, Michael Fuino, Assistant City Attorney. This agenda item requests authority to initiate 5 foreclosure lawsuits against 5 properties that have a various assortment of municipal liens against them. They were decided based on staff review that included the type of violation, the amount of the lien, and whether or not there were additional superior liens in front of them. We would ask that we initiate those foreclosures as quickly as possible. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 10.3? Consent?
Yep.
Thank you for your work on that. 10.4, our second reading. 10.5 is a second reading. Any questions on second readings? 11.1, Mr. Delk.
Mayor, Council, Michael Delk, Assistant City Manager. I wanted to take this opportunity here as kind of your last meeting with you as the group prior to tomorrow's election to give you one final kind of update on where things stand with the park redevelopment, the Imagine Clearwater project. And so I'm going to have Tim Kurtz come forward and introduce to you our representative of Skanska, our construction manager at risk, and kind of go over with you where I think, you all have seen the 600 pages of 60% plans that are sitting on my desk. So I think, as we've discussed, this is a far more complicated project from a construction standpoint than one might imagine. So, but we are getting very, very close to being able to get started with getting the park under construction and the library. So we are, as I've been saying, we're going to be building something this year. And so if Tim, if you would kind of update us and give council kind of a final status report here where we are.
Good morning. Tim Kurtz, Engineering Construction Manager with the Engineering Department. As you all know, we do have the plans for 90% for the library and from Williams and Dakar, and we also have the park 60% plans by Stantec. City is currently reviewing the 60% plans. Those comments are due hopefully by the end of the day, Friday. With that said, in December, you went forward and approved a contract with Skanska, and they've been working diligently with the two consultant teams as well as their subcontractors and suppliers, going through the designs as they stand today. And I have Chuck Jablon, who's the Senior Vice President with Skanska, Florida. He's a single point of contact for the city and is in charge of the Imagine Clearwater project, and he's here to answer any specific questions and kind of give you an overview of where he is in that world.
Morning, Mayor, City Councilmen, City Attorneys, City Manager, and Assistant City Managers. My name's Chuck Jablon. I am a lifelong resident of Pinellas County. I lived here my entire life, 48 years. This will be my 49th year in construction. And just to give you a little bit of experience, the last 3 parks built in Hillsborough, City of Tampa, and St. Petersburg, I've been the lead on, which is Kylie Gardens and Curtis Sixon Waterfront Park, that's had millions of people there and has been very successful. Across the river on the other side, Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park, just completed that a year ago and had lots of successes there already. And currently in the final stages of the St. Petersburg Gateway, Pier Approach, and the pier itself, with the mayor on my heels announcing the date, May 30th of this year. And I think he can predict the weather and the rain as well, but we're very close to finishing that. My job as construction manager, the single point of lead, is to deliver a GMP both on the library and on the park being 26 acres, and the library, which we're in here today, 60,000 square feet. My job is to understand and bring to the all of the subcontractors and the vendors the knowledge that's on those drawings so that they understand those completely, and so it's clear to them. So I've had over 28 workshops on this building alone. We have scanned this building in addition to the drawings that Williams Descartes has drawn. We've come here with the help of the library and staff. It's been very gracious to us and our workers. We have scanned all the above ceilings, below ceilings, the roof, everything that's there, because over 20 years you can't ever know what's been put in those ceilings. So we scanned it all and we built a model, and we're currently delivering that model this week to Williams Descartes so that he understands and can adjust his drawings if need be for what's up in those ceilings. So that that minimizes change orders. And my job with Skanska is bring all the resources that we have to bear on that. So I've accomplished that. I've had 28 workshops with local vendors, subcontractors. We've walked through this building from top to bottom. We understand what we've learned. First priority is to put maybe it's not the first priority, but one of the priorities is to add an event space on the 5th floor roof that's up there now. In adding that 5th floor event space, we would be adding an elevator that goes from the ground floor to the roof that minimizes any opportunity during event time that you don't have to get into the library here. It segregates you. In addition to that, we'd be cutting a hole in the 4th floor through the roof to get to the 5th floor new event space, and then we have to come down through the building and touch a lot of things, strengthening the columns because of the weight and the wind loads that are on those columns. So whatever we take apart, we have to put back together. In addition to that, there's bump outs on Osceola that brings more light into the building on the first level, and this is storefronts that will allow more light to come into the building as we understand it. And then on the south side here, we have a new bump out there that extends the building with curtain wall and a new monumental stair. And then the third bucket would be to completely renovate this ground floor down here and take up all the flooring. Probably have to cut a lot of slabs up to put all the new technology in. And then last but not least, on the outside, to put a ramp in, handicap ramp to get down to the new Imagine Park. So that's a little bit about the library, what we've been doing. We put together a group of local subcontractors, 4 to 5 in each, and I understand what local is because I'm from Pinellas County. So I've been pretty successful in getting about 92% local for what goes into this building right here, and vendors. In addition to that, on the Imagine, 26 acres of park out there, Coachman Park. My job there was to learn what's below ground, what our challenges are below ground prior to doing actual work on the park, what has to be moved and relocated with Duke Energy, also a force main. So we've broken that into buckets as well, what goes below ground, infrastructure, what goes above ground, infrastructure, all the hardscape, all the landscape, and then we broke it out into the elements, the buildings, the new gateway, the stairs, the bridges, all of the band shell, the canopy, all of the playground equipment, just renovation and excavation of everything, and understanding all the amount of fill that we have to bring in, excavation of the filtration pond. So that was my job to get in 9 weeks. Since we signed our contract, we have dug in, rolled our sleeves up, and had over 40 workshops out here on site and in my offices, in Stantec's offices in Orlando, Stantec's offices in Tampa. We know all the players. The consultants know all the local vendors and subcontractors that we've been involving in this project. And so now that we understand it, now we're going to begin the practice of pricing it in the documents that we've had. We've managed to extrapolate all that information, get it out into the public. We estimated ourselves, Skanska with our staff, but we also real-time do it in the public as well. So at this point in time, we're at the design build stage documents. There's 2 more sets to go there on the park, and probably 1 more set on the library for us to complete. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions, council? Very good.
Comments?
Since it's not as easy as we thought, you just don't wave a magic wand and have a park built. Why not?
Was that a question?
You know, a lot of people say,
It's not as easy as we thought. Yes,
Oh, it was a question. Okay.
You have to, you can do it.
You
can do
You call
it.
us out on this all the time. I wanted to see how that was a question.
Mayor, may I, with
Mr. Dunn.
I guess, can you give us kind of an idea of what we're looking at in terms of being able to see some dirt moving or some
What we're talking
initial
with,
work in
we're talking with staff, Tim and his group in Terra, and our thoughts are, at this time, from what we've learned and what we know today, we think it's in our best interest to continue on with the pricing and to look at doing enabling work. Get the pipes that are below ground that need to be moved so we can dig the filtration pond, and get the new force main in and the new force grinder and lift station in. And that gives us time to finalize the pricing and bring this to both projects to a GMP. I would say that we, in our phasing, in order to keep, when we present it to staff, that we would bear in mind to keep the event, especially the Jazz Festival that I've attended many times, keep that in operation. So in our mind, we'd like to start with the library. I would say in my mind, with experience, that we could probably get a GMP in June and start in July, but we'd like to start phase 1 of the park as well, working from south to north, so that we can keep the event space still open. And, you know, quite honestly, the enabling work, in talking with Tim and staff lately, this is March, April, May, I don't see any reason why we couldn't start doing the enabling work in May with approval from staff.
Mr. Pugliese.
Thank you, Mayor. So all of the underground analysis that has been done, and Clearwater Beach is on the other side, of course, the intercoastal there. Do we have within that park footprint, do we have electric and water main, you said force main, do we have those utilities within the park footprint that go to Clearwater Beach? We do.
Yes, sir. It's nothing dissimilar than, except in age, on one of the things you learn by experience, you don't buy experience, you gain it. In every park that I've done comes the infrastructure. And in the city of St. Petersburg, people were wondering, why is the pier taking so long? And, you know, the mayor will tell you better than anybody, and city council, because they lived through it. We replaced 100-year-old infrastructure, and it ran right through the pier approach, the gateway, and all the way out to the pier. We replaced all of that, and that was roughly 18 million. That's sanitary, sewer, storm, potable water, fire, and gas.
Well, if I may, I'm glad that we chose Skanska, and I'm glad that he's our lead, because the wealth of knowledge and experience is just critical to this project, and I'm glad you live here and that you're going to be in charge of this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't take it lightly.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Albrecht?
Yeah, one of the things I talked to Mr. Duck about was, I know plans are in permitting now, and you just told me you really wanted to start the library first, but, you know, we're all kind of waiting to see the first shovel of dirt turned, you know, to get the park up and running. Can we separate the permits and maybe get a demo permit? Because, I mean, we're going to have to do something with the parking lot, I imagine, first. You're going to be digging the pond probably first or second, because you need that dirt to offset the fill that you're going to bring in. Will we be able to do something before the building plans are, you know, the construction plans are?
Yeah, Tim and Kat had suggested that, and we are working on that, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, that's the first order of business. And we've broken it up actually into 4 phases, imagine.
I was at a Big C meeting the other day, and Duke Energy was talking about some of the work that they're doing along the beach for the undergrounding. And do you know what Duke Energy, because they mentioned that they're doing some work in Coachman Park, do you know what that entails?
Yes, we both do. There's a lot of it, sir. Yeah. It's as much as it was at Julian B. Well, that was Tico, but I'm working with the same people in Duke that works here, and we have the same amount of transformers to move and new lines to put in. And then some we found that Duke didn't know was there on the pier as well.
Okay,
Well,
thank
if
you.
anybody wants to know why, we're at $50-some million. I mean,
Yeah.
a huge chunk of this check is enabling underground, all of that. Continue to supply Clearwater Beach with power and water.
Things that you don't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of
Thank
like
you.
our employees who work that, you know, that we recognized earlier this morning. They do a lot of the work that people don't see. Thank you. All
Yeah,
right. Oh, I'm sorry. Something else?
Well, just briefly, a couple of things I want to touch on here as we, is the public outreach. We've got plans for that. Let me, right now, this schedule, we're going to, and I think, you know, we've mentioned to you, we're going to reduce that. I think we don't see the need to go out as often and as in-depth as we did the last time. So we're looking at 2 meetings right now to take the 60% to the public, fulfill that obligation that we made to them. One is May 5th, lunchtime here in the library, and the other is the evening before, May 4th, at the Morningside Recreation Center. So right now, we're planning on those 2 public events. Understanding, of course, that, you know, the current issues with coronavirus, if there's a change, we'll certainly let you know quickly. Generally, these are fairly small events, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to manage through them and have those opportunities for the public, but certainly if we need to do something different, we'll do that. The last thing I want to mention to you is that you've been given a copy of the request for expressions of interest. This is a working draft. It is very close to being completed. I just wanted to deliver that to you as you're still sitting together as a corporate body here, and you know, over the next few days, if you happen to got any comments or anything you want to get to me, you're certainly feel free to do that. But I wanted you to see what we're preparing for really a national marketing effort. I think HRNA already, as I've suggested to you, is making some contacts out there, reaching out to some of the development community to make them aware of this. We will ramp that up as we put the final touches on this document and get it out there, but this gives you a sense of the flavor and what we're trying to really sell and market ourselves, the tremendous opportunity that we have. And we, as you're well aware, at this point, we have a lot of background information in terms of the economics and the analysis that HRNA has done there. So, with regard to that, my final comment is that everything that you've asked for to be incorporated into the Imagine Clearwater plan is being designed and brought forward. And so that's, we just wanted to provide you an update, one final update here. So,
Thank you, sir.
Final question, if I may? Just it's a question.
All right.
So, by continuing to design plan the amphitheater and the covered seating, to change and go backwards now, that would be a waste and a cost of, it's a substantial number.
I would imagine so. At this point, we're moving forward as directed. We do understand there's a potential for change, but just to keep the schedule that we currently have, we're staying on course with what the original work order was. We have not been directed to do otherwise.
That would delay the project, I'm
Absolutely.
guessing.
Sure.
Critical delay.
Time and money. I mean, yeah, you were talking supplemental work order to the consultants and reworking.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Horn, you have any other business for us?
Yes, Mayor, I have one item. I asked Javon Graham, our emergency manager, to come and do a couple of things. One is just kind of give you a summary of what we've been involved with for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And then we do need to talk a little bit about the beach. I don't know how many of you saw the governor's press conference yesterday. He did address concerns in South Florida, talking to the mayors there, seemingly comfortable with a curfew, but I don't know whether that will hold. The CDC has gotten even more restrictive overnight. And so I want you all to kind of have an opportunity to talk to Javon. I would say that when these sorts of things occur, your staff, literally, we're working every day. So we worked right through the weekend. We will continue to stay with this until it ends. As I told Javon, he's almost joined at the hip with me. Wherever I am, you know, he and I are connected. But that also means Chief Slaughter, also means Micah, also means Jennifer, also means Joelle. It may mean Pam, if we need to have that legal advice, which we have had to have so far. So this is an ongoing experience that we're all are going through. So, come on, just give us an abbreviated summary.
Okay, my name is Javon Graham, City of Clearwater Emergency Manager. Good morning. As you know, COVID is hit the country, it's hit the state. It's an ever-changing, ever-moving. As Mr. Horn said, every night we get something different. It changes every few hours, it seems. As of this morning, however, I just want to give you a little bit of update of what we've been dealing with over the weekend, every single day. This has been literally a citywide effort. Every department has been involved in how to prepare and protect the employees and the community as well. So as of this morning from the Department of Health, we have had 136 positive cases. The majority of this is still based off of travel. They have had some that have been from contact, but because they can relate it to travel, they do not feel this is community spread as of yet. It is still basically travel for our state. Other states are different, but you know, our state right now is still based on travel. We have had 2 cases in Pinellas County. So this is close to us. It is close to home, and only 5 deaths so far in the state of Florida. There have been states of emergencies, obviously with the governor has made a state of emergency for the state, but the county also has declared a countywide state of emergency as well. So to protect the employees and the community, we have enacted several different citywide practices in accordance with the CDC and working closely with the county and trying to follow all their recommendations. Some of that we have pushed out to employees is we've encouraged them to practice common methods to prevent the spread of virus, flu etiquette, social distancing, hand washing, everything that they've been recommending. We've been trying to push that out and have that community-wide messaging to all of the employees and staff. Along with this, we've implemented increased sanitation of cleanings and buildings and high-touch areas. So areas that have high traffic, large community or large gatherings or a lot of people that come through there, we make sure we increase the cleaning schedules so that we keep cleaning and keep the sanitation at a high level, and so that we don't help spread anything at that level. Out-of-state travel has temporarily been canceled, and all special events for the rest of the month have been canceled per state and guidelines of the CDC, reducing large gatherings and decreasing the social contact. And you know that's come out again last night with the governor of trying to decrease those numbers even more. These events include, but aren't limited to, like Sugar Sand, Paint Your Heart Out, Neighborhoods Day, events like that where we have come in contact with large parts of the community, trying to reduce that spread for employees and also kind of reduce it from spreading out to the community as well, especially since we do have contact or have issues in the county. So along with these city practices, we modify programs and activities to limit the potential spread and to follow the CDC and state guidelines in limiting mass gatherings and to limit exposure to the employees and to the citizens who are at a higher risk. Examples of these include Aging Well Center programs. Those are targeted to senior citizens or the senior community. They tend to be the worst ones who are having the effects of this. The over 60, over 50, those with pre-existing medical conditions. So we're trying to cut stuff out so that we don't expose them anymore and again keep that level of spread down. The rec centers, even though they're open, they have reduced the majority of their programs and canceled a lot of their programs. And along with having the rec center open, they have increased their screening processes as well. So they're asking the questions. And if you have symptoms of anything, you're not coming in. They want to limit that with that community. All staff-led rec programs and classes, including swim lessons, have been canceled, and all contractor-led programs are left individually, but they're being cut down as well. So this, like he said, is ever-changing. Every day something's different, but we're trying to stay ahead of this and trying to move forward to make sure we're prepared. We are working with the county. We're working with almost every jurisdiction around us so that all of our messaging is the same, and that way when we close, everybody is closing and doing things around the same and at the same time. Any questions I may answer at this point?
What's the big question out there?
Recently, most currently, the biggest one is the beaches.
Okay.
And that's what, after what happened in Miami and other larger cities, that is the question. And they are focusing on our beach because they are recommending there's nothing to do, businesses are closing, stores are closing, they're modifying hours. People are saying go to the beach, but now that has become a big topic.
Okay. But explain what has been done in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. They didn't close, they put a curfew.
Correct. And they still have the beaches open to about 4 or 5, depending on, I'm not exactly correct on that number, but they put a curfew for after that time to limit the beach access and beach activity.
Has the county recommended that we do that along all of Pinellas beaches yet?
They haven't said anything per se. Most of those decisions, they've been leaving up to each jurisdiction. So they haven't given any direction on that as of yet.
Our TDC meeting is tomorrow. Council, I don't know if anything's going to come up, at TDC tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, Wednesday, about that. Any other thoughts, guys?
There's not a lot I can say. Anything I say is going to seem
Self-serving.
Self-serving.
Yeah.
But, as I was saying right now, everybody needs to take the precautions necessary, do the right things as far as hygiene and whatnot. But the true number, especially for us particularly, Pinellas County is 800,000 people, 800,000 residents, and with this time of year, we're probably over 1 million people in Pinellas County right now for tourism reasons and in the tourism industry. And we have 2 cases, and they're already identified and quarantined. I don't know that we are to a point where we need to be taking draconian measures yet. We obviously need to be, stay up on all the information as current as it can possibly be, take the necessary steps to be as safe as we can be individually, but I don't think it's time to create a air of panic.
I'm hearing you, and I tend to agree with some of the things that you're saying, but let's get to what other people are talking about, and that is curfews on the beach, curfews on restaurants, emergency powers. Do we need to do something as a council to give the manager authority to do this when we're not meeting? Does that go to Ms. Aiken?
Yes,
Okay.
and also to Javon. We would declare a state of emergency and then have it ratified by council, and the powers that you're delegating would then be given to the manager. And
Is that something that we ought to, we only have one meeting between, we have a meeting Thursday, and then there's not another meeting for 2 weeks. So is that something that we ought to get ready to do in case the county, let's say the county directs that there's a 10 p.m. curfew, does that apply to businesses here in Clearwater automatically?
they have, their declarations have been countywide, the ones that they have done. We could also do our own if we choose to. We are prepared in the event the decision is made to move forward with an emergency declaration. We are working on that as we speak. We have a meeting internally today, and I'm sure we will know more after that meeting. So we are prepared to bring it forward to you, should that be the decision, we being legal.
Mr. Pogler.
So we would call an emergency special council work meeting to get
You
the
don't
approval.
need to, because you have a meeting Thursday.
You can do it
Oh,
Thursday.
so we would do it Thursday. Because to me, it seems, and I heard the conversation we had during break just a little bit, is that it's going to be determined by the governor if he starts closing beaches, for instance, because he was really concerned, and I know he reached out to Miami-Dade and some other that all the precautions that are being taken nationwide, you open the public beaches, it's not great for anybody's economic health, but if that is the largest single event that's undermining a national effort, at least in the southern states that have beaches, I just think we need to be prepared that if we have to do that, that we have some type of protocol in place. Because also on the chopping block now, and I've heard some of the other conversations, the governor's looking at, or CDC's now recommending no gatherings of more than 50 people. Well, that's just about every restaurant. So if they start putting restaurants, and another thing that's concerning to me that's not backed by scientific data that I've read is that they're hoping as the normal flu season dissipates in the summertime that the hotter temperatures, they're in the bylines in the articles you read, there's not enough information. They don't know if that's going to be the case. So, and I don't want to be gloom and doom of prolonged turmoil and chaos, but I mean, it could happen. They don't know what's going to happen with this. So I think the more precautionary, the more prepared that we at least, our considerations, deliberations, and conversations, the better. So.
Mr. Albrecht.
Well, I kind of agree with what's being said. I hate to jump on something and without having all the facts. The beaches are a big economic driver for us. It is an outside event. It's not an enclosed event. You do have people gathering, but it's in a, we're up to 84 degrees now. Whether that is beneficial for us or not, we don't know. It's almost like a daily thing. We're learning new things. So instead of just jumping out there, I think we should see what happens here in the next week or so, and kind of follow that and see what happens.
Plus, let's clarify also, there were certain problems in Fort Lauderdale and Miami that we're not having here in Clearwater in Pinellas County. Is that correct, Chief Graham?
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they have some police matters down there they had to deal with, some law enforcement issues.
Yeah, they had some issues that was more than just people getting together, on the beach that they were trying to address. Yeah, okay. Mr. Kondo.
I was just going to add, are not the largest percentage of cases down in those counties?
Yeah.
Yes.
Public safety is number one, and I do agree that we should have a resolution in hand to fill the next 2 weeks when we're not in session.
So are we okay with that, for them to bring something back to us on? Mr. Horn, did you?
Well, Pam, I think.
Well, I think the recommendation will come from the manager and Javon to you.
Okay.
We're prepared if that is the recommendation.
Right.
And they'll let me know today if that's the
Okay.
recommendation.
Let me share a couple of data points. I got a phone call yesterday morning.
Oh, excuse me 1 second, Mr. Horn. Let's also explain to everybody that Ruth Eckerd Hall has closed down voluntarily.
Through the 2nd of April.
And the Clearwater Marine Aquarium has closed down voluntarily, at least for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
I think through the 15th, I believe.
Okay.
Or something like
No,
that.
I thought they were going to the end of March.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
yeah, through the 27th, that's
Yeah,
right.
okay. Because those are two we forgot to mention.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because what I was going to share is that I had that conversation with the president and CEO of CMA, which was partly driven by other venues in the area that had been asked to shut down, which made CMA become an outlier if it were to stay open. So some of this is what's being factored into some of the behavior of various organizations and businesses, again, is how they look in the community and what their rationale is for staying open when others are closing. I got a call at 11 o'clock last night. Well, actually, it was a text. I went ahead and responded, and it was a phone call from one of our neighborhood leaders, neighborhood association leaders, who was on the beach. And it was a tough day for North Beach on Sunday, I guess. Yeah, I think it was Sunday, with just the normal spring break crowd. A lot of people go there to get access to the north part of the beach, and also they think it's a dog beach. So they were dealing with people who had their pets, and the police and the neighborhood leader, the neighborhood association president, was working very well with the police. I mean, he was very complimentary on how he was able to work with our police. And our police are, as you know, during this time of the year, is pretty stressed with a lot of inappropriate behavior, parking, those kinds of things. And so we will be addressing that. So as we look at the beach, and you've seen some of the news interviews, clearly people don't know where to go. So that's adding to our spring break population on the beach. Right. I think we'll make recommendations to you, and we'll stay very close and be attentive to what is happening in the governor's office, because he's driving some of this. CDC is driving some of it. The county has consistently, make it a local. Right. They've really not, given us a lot of. I mean, we're in conversation with them, good partners, and then a lot of businesses, have made their own decisions. I just want to share with you, having dealt with a lot of emergency types of situations, I will not allow ourselves to be put at a disadvantage because we can't get together. I mean, I may make some decisions that I may come back and ask you to ratify if I feel like we just can't ignore it, and then we have to do something. That's just being, I think, responsible. But right now, I'm not aware of any, issues out there, other than what you all are aware of. We keep you aware. That's why we send you those emails. I really want you to continue to track your email account with us, because that's the fastest way that we can keep you up to speed. Javon has you on the email list. So all those reports, I know there are a lot, just keep you up to date. And if I do need to reach out to you via telephone, I will do that. I won't hesitate to do it. But we have a meeting this afternoon at 1:30, and is at that meeting that we'll kind of sort out how we want to come forward on Thursday night with a resolution.
Until then, please remember to wash your hands, drink lots of fluid, keep your social distance. If you're not well, don't come out. If you're well, continue doing what you're doing because it's working.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Our next meeting will be Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And it will be, remind everybody, tomorrow is Election Day. Council, on Saturday, I had my election advisor class. They are going to be cleaning and disinfecting all of the poll material every hour to ensure that the polling place will be as clean as possible, so you can feel comfortable coming to vote in person if you haven't already voted. I think you have until 5 o'clock this afternoon to pick up a ballot if you wanted the supervisor of elections office to drop it off. Don't let this scare you and keep you from voting. That is not a good excuse. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Well, yours smells really nice.